The topic for today's presentation is up on the screen, and it is Introduction to Dynamic Blocks and Creating Custom Tool Palettes with Blocks in AutoCAD. So let's talk about the agenda for today. So in today's webcast, I'm going to talk about two somewhat separate topics. Although they are connected, but they are two different topics. One is working with dynamic blocks and other is working in tool palettes. So the first two objectives are concerning the dynamic blocks, and we are going to identify the dynamic blocks and then manipulate them using their built-in grips. The latter couple of objectives are about the tool palette, where we will see how to create a custom tool palette and add blocks and then modify the properties of those blocks in the tool palette. So let's get started now. I'm sure most of you must be aware of regular kinds of blocks that we have in AutoCAD. They're a group of objects put together to form a unified, single unified object. These unified objects are saved as blocks and then can be used over and over again in different drawings or multiple times in the same drawing. For example, we have the blocks for windows or doors in architectural drawings, or for mechanical drawings, we can have a set of nuts, bolts, and other parts that can be reused over and over again. These are the regular conventional blocks. There are times when we need to have multiple variations of the same block. What that means is that we can have blocks for doors or windows, but then we need to have different sizes of windows or doors. In such a situation, AutoCAD has provided us with the capability of having dynamic blocks. So they are special kinds of blocks that can be changed dynamically, which means that once you place them in a drawing, they can be manipulated in a variety of ways, which includes lengthening a side, flipping the direction. You can also align them to other objects, rotate them, and then also select a variation of the block from a list of options provided. These blocks are created in such a way that the manipulation options are built into them. In many cases, several standard blocks can be replaced by one dynamic block, hence making them into powerful design tools. Instead of using many separate blocks to represent each size or each variation of an object, we can define a single dynamic block, which is all of the sizes and variations built into it. For example, you can define a bolt block that stretches to fit any of the standard bolt lengths that you can be using in a drawing. Similarly, in an electrical diagram, as you can see on the screen, a single block of a switch can be displayed in its open state or in its closed state. And all those variations are built into that single block. Some points to know about dynamic blocks. Not all dynamic blocks have the same modification features. The features depend on the modifications that are built into the block when it's defined. When a dynamic block is selected, special grips on it display, and they are based on the available types of modification. As you can see on the slide, the arrow grip on the end of the bolt enables us to stretch the object. The AutoCAD software has also provided us with several sample dynamic blocks, and they are displayed in the tool palettes in various tabs, such as civil blocks. Then we can have mechanical blocks, etc., etc. You can identify dynamic blocks by seeing the lightning bolt symbol that is displayed on the block icon. You can see here on the screen. So this is a dynamic block. As I said earlier, depending on the features built into the dynamic block, you can use a variety of methods or actions to modify it. To know what kind of variation is built into a dynamic block, we need to first select it and then multiple grips of different shapes display on the block. Each shape of grip indicates the action or variation that has been incorporated into that block. The available block grips are lengthen, shorten grip. Then we have the list grip, insert and move grip, flip grip, align, and rotate grip. These modification features can differ from one block to another. For example, one block might only have the lengthen, shorten grip, while another might have the flip, list, and rotate grips. All of those actions are rarely available in one block, but blocks usually have more than one action. Some of the special grips display a tooltip. When you hover over them, the tooltip explains its use and indicates the action that's required. Now, let's quickly get to know about the various grips. The half arrow grip, which is without the tail, is the lengthen, shorten grip. And as the name specifies, it can scale and stretch a block. As you can see on the screen, there are line marks also displaying along the right side of the bolt. So these are preset increments for scaling and stretching and were set in the block definition for the required standard sizes. For example, you can set those increments for standard bolt lengths or window lengths, etc., etc. Then you can have the circular grip, which is the rotation grip, and obviously it rotates the block object. Flip action flips a block and is represented by a full arrow grip. They're quite important for the doors and windows to flip their swing side and the hinge side. So here you can see on the screen, you can flip them so that the swing is on the other side rather than being on the right side. Then there is the list grip, which opens a list of options that are defined in the block. You can see that here on the screen. This is the list grip, and it displays all the different options of the bolt. So it contains a list where you can select the standard sizes for the bolt. Then the square grip, which is the move grip, is the most common grip available in blocks. It is also available in the regular conventional blocks, and it is the base point for inserting the block. It's also used to move the block in the drawing. So this concludes the first two objectives for the dynamic blocks. Now let's see how to add block tools into the tool palettes. So tool palettes are one of the easiest ways for inserting blocks into a drawing. You can create custom palettes in the tool palettes to organize your blocks into logical categories. To create a custom palette, right-click on the tool palette's title bar and select the new palette option. Name it as per your requirement, and once the custom palette has been created, it is obviously empty to begin with. So here you are required to add the blocks to it. For that, you need to have your drawing open where these blocks have been saved. Now simply drag and drop the blocks from the drawing onto the palette space to create tools for those blocks. As they are now saved in the tool palettes, you can then insert those blocks into any other drawing or any other drawings without having to define the block in that specific drawing, because all those blocks, we have already saved them in the tool palettes, and the tool palettes is available in all the drawings. It does not matter whether you have saved those blocks in those tool palettes or not, in those drawings or not, because they are already saved in the tool palette. Now, each tool in a palette can also be modified for specific properties, such as we can modify the layer, we can scale or rotation, and so on and so forth. For example, you might need to place a block at two different angles. So what you can do here is you can create two tools in the palette for inserting the block, and each preset to be inserted at the required angle. So this can all be done in the tool palette itself. So to do that, to modify a tool's properties, you need to right-click on a tool in the palette and then you select properties from the options. This opens the tool properties dialog box for that block. Here you can set the name and description and other insert properties, such as you can change the scale and the rotation and whether to explode the block or not. You can also specify the color and layer for the block here. So let's get into AutoCAD, and I will demonstrate both those features, first the dynamic blocks and then the tool palettes in AutoCAD. So you can see the screen, on the screen, you can see a drawing. And what we are going to do is first open the tool palettes and then see how those dynamic blocks look. So we'll go into the View tab and open the tool palettes. So this is the tool palettes, and it's most of you must be aware that all the sample dynamic blocks that are provided with AutoCAD, they are listed in different categories, and these tabs are listed on the along with the tool palettes. So right now we have the mechanical open, you have electrical, you have architectural, and so on and so forth. So let's open, because we need bolt in this socket. We have created already a socket in this drawing, and we need a bolt that should go in here. So let's open one of this hex socket bolt, and this is the one that we need to put in. So as soon as we place it, before that, you can notice that some blocks have the lightning bolt, whereas other blocks don't have it. So this block, because it has a lightning bolt, it means that it is a dynamic block. And now how do you know the dynamic block? Is that by selecting it, it should display some grips other than the move grip, which is the square grip. So as you can see here on the screen, it has one grip on the side, which is a lengthened, shortened grip. And as you hover your cursor over it and turn it into a hot grip, what happens is that it specifies the length of the bolt. And then it also gives you a tooltip and where it indicates that what it is specifying. It says set the bolt length. Then it also has the move grip, which we can use to move it around and place it at that location. And then we also have the lift grip, which is indicated by this small downward turned arrow and a line above it. So as we hover the cursor, it turns red. But at this point, we have to click it, and you can see the different options that are available. And these are the sizes for the block, for this bolt. So now, as you can see here, we need to put this bolt in a different direction, like it should be rotated. Now, rather than, so maybe we need the bolts both ways, like we should have a bolt which we have to insert the way that it is coming, like in the horizontal direction, but we also need the bolt in the vertical direction. So what we can do is we can create a custom tool palette based on our needs and requirements. So just to make it easy for us to have all the bolts, nuts, or all the blocks that we need in our drawings and place them in one location so that we can easily find them and then easily insert them without, just defining them in each drawing when we open it. So what we do is we can right click on the tool palette title bar, and here we can choose new palette. So it creates a new empty palette and it names it automatically as new palette. We can just name it something else. So I'm going to name it custom. And once it is done, I can say enter. Now I have a new tool palette which has been created and which is a custom palette. And as you can see, it's empty. So all I have to do is drag and drop it here. So I can just not drag it using move, because this will just move it, but not put it back in the tool palette. If you have to move it, then you have to click on it anywhere else and then move it into the tool palette. You can see a blue line up here, which indicates that I'm going to add a block into the tool palette. And it has been added right here. Now next is I want a block which is in the vertical direction, so that I can easily insert it and place it in the right direction, right orientation in my drawing. So all I have to do is just modify it, and I can easily modify it here in the custom tool palette. I can say right click and then choose the properties. Once I choose the properties option, the tool properties opens. And here I can change the name, and I can say anything like custom, maybe custom horizontal. So a custom vertical. And then we can also give a description if I want to explain what my block is about. And here in the rotation, because I need to just rotate it, I will just enter the rotation for it, which is -90, and press enter. You can automatically see that the image has changed, and it is now in the vertical orientation rather than in the horizontal orientation. And once I say OK, it will change it. But before that, let me say that because I might need the horizontal one also, so let me cancel it first, and let me make a copy of it and then modify that copy. It's a good habit to just modify it, modify the copy, because I might be using the horizontal one in some of my drawings. So to copy it, first, I just press the control button on my laptop and then just hold it and drag it down here. It will just add another copy of that bolt. And now it's always a good practice to just copy the original bolt or original block and then modify that. So then let me go back and modify it. And in the properties, I'll just enter the name, which is custom vertical. And then change the rotation to -90 so that it's vertical, and say press enter so that it takes that value, and now say OK. And you can automatically see that a new bolt has been created, which is a copy of the original one, but has been modified and can now be placed vertically in that location. So now let's get it, and you can see how easily, and you can do it in any other drawing too. So just place it at the right location, which is the midpoint, and place it there. So once it is done, now you can see it does not fit properly in the socket that has been provided for the bolt. So for that reason, we can just first lengthen it. And we know that it, as being a dynamic block, it already has the lengthen, shorten grip in there, which has been built into it. So I'll click on it, and then it gives me all those vertical, all those lines, which are the preset increments of the length. So we can go to 65 or maybe 70 or maybe 75, whichever you feel is an appropriate size. I think 75 is an appropriate size for this this socket, and say enter. And it has been lengthened to the 75 units of measurement. And now, because what is happening is that the width, it does not fit properly. So for that reason, maybe we can choose one of the sizes, which is a bigger size of the block. So we can go on the list grip and click on it, and then maybe choose M10, because right now it's M8, which is the size of that block. Maybe M10 is the standard bigger size. So if we go M10, it looks really good. But then let's go M12 and see maybe that might fit better. And I think M12 looks better and it fits better. So that is the list grip. So I can say escape and done. So this is what the dynamic blocks is and how we made the custom palette. Now I'll show you some other dynamic blocks and show you other kinds of grips that have been incorporated in those. So let me open the architectural uh, tab and get the door, this door into the drawing. So I can just click and get it in here. So you can see it is a door, and then once I click on it, being a dynamic block, different types of grips can be seen. So this is the length and shorten as you saw on the nut and bolt, and we can just increase the size or decrease the size, scale it down, scale it up, whatever you want. Stretch it or stretch it down or stretch it up. And then we have the flip grips. They are right here. And then it also has the list grip, which shows if the door is open or closed at whichever angle. So right now it's open at 30-degree angle. We can definitely go on to 45-degree angle and so on and so forth. So different, the swing opening angles have been given in the list grip. Then the flip grip is, again, if you flip it, what happens is that the hinge side will move to the right and the swing side will move to the left. So you can do that, and you can see this is what this is opening, like the swing has been changed. Similarly, you can go up and down, like if it is opening inward or if it is opening outward. So for that, you have a flip grip for that too. So you can open it this way or that way. It also has an align grip right here, this kind of the square, and then on top of that a pentagon shape. So that shape indicates that it is an align grip. So for that purpose, what I have already drawn a line here, and we can align this door to this line, because sometimes, for example, you have a irregular shaped room and you want the door to align to that shape of the wall, which might not be perfectly square. So in that case, you can align it to the wall. So let's do that, but let me first close it so that you can easily see. So I close the door, and now I can use the align grip. I click on it and then move it. And as you can see, when it reaches the wall, supposedly this, it thinks that the line here is the wall, it will align itself to it. And we can definitely place it on this location, this side or that side, but you can align it just like that. So once we have aligned it, then we can open it again and see which way the swing is and which way the hinge is. So we can say open 30. And now if you are not in the right direction, you can definitely flip it in the other direction, or you can flip it also in the other direction, just like so. So, so that is the other kinds of grips. So we did see how the stretch grip works, how the list grip works, how the align grip works, how the flip grip works. There is other grips. There's another grip, which is the rotate grip. And we can use that. It is a simple, it will just rotate, but it has not been assigned to either the bolt or the door. So that's how we created. We also created the custom palette. We inserted, we changed the, we modified the block in the custom tool palette. We had a look at different kinds of dynamic blocks and the different kinds of grips those dynamic blocks have. So let's get back to our demonstration, into our slides and proceed. So this finally, let's recapitulate what we did into today's presentation. So we worked with the dynamic blocks using their grips and created custom tool palette of blocks. So what did we look at today? We were able to identify and work with dynamic blocks. We were using different types of built-in grips to manipulate the dynamic blocks. We also created a custom palette in the tool palettes to organize the blocks in a logical category. And we were also able to modify the properties of the blocks in the custom tool palette.